I hope you're all having a cracking day. Welcome to tonight's show. Don't get too stressed about the title of tonight's stream. I'm just trying to manage expectations, ladies and gentlemen, more than I am trying to, well, a phrase that I like to use is pissing people's cornflakes. I don't want to come on here and fill you with doom and gloom, but I want to be realistic on what we should and maybe will expect over the coming months. And look, we started off with Ibrahima Konate coming into the club, and by anybody's, I suppose, measurement, that to me is a very good signing, a needed signing, and somebody who I think will certainly add strength and depth to a position that we struggled with last season. But I don't want people to be believing some of the hype that you'll see on Twitter or some of these websites that want to drive you with clicks. Now, I know this sounds a bit hypocritical, because we're all here for clicks a little bit, aren't we? There's no point in me having a YouTube channel without trying to bring people across. But what I'm trying to say to you is, I'll always be honest. Any information that I give out or any answers that I give are genuinely coming from a place of honesty and wanting to be realistic with you guys, because I see it every summer. I see people getting their hopes up. I see people getting frustrated. I see Liverpool fans turning on each other on social media because some person's read X story and some person's read Y story. What I like to do is come together, talk about the articles we've all seen and read, and come to a bit of a consensus on whether we believe them or whether we think it's true or not. Right, so what have we got, ladies and gentlemen? Where would you like to start off this evening? Let's go with Ben's comment first. Ben says, right now, Craig, are you FSG in or FSG out? Right, I'll answer this. It's going to be a bit long-winded, buddy, so bear with me. Nothing for me has changed since John W. Henry and FSG made that mistake for me that was the straw that broke the camel's back, and that was the Super League stuff. To me, that was my last straw. So I would say technically I'm FSG out, but I want to caveat that by saying I'm very worried or very mindful of who might come afterwards. So I'm not going to sit here and say that they're the worst owners in the world, because I think that would be absolutely unfair of me to say. They've made plenty of mistakes, and they seem to be, I don't want to say cheapskating again when it comes to transfers, but that might be a phrase others would use. But they have made positive steps. So the Spirit of Shankly stuff, the board member or the member of the Liverpool fan association in the Spirit of Shankly at board level being able to veto certain things, that's a positive step. They've done a lot of good things, but I have to say, I'm as confused as anybody how every single summer we're back in a position where it's, where's the money? How have we got no money? We're being told that we've got record revenues, record sponsorship deals, record partnerships, record shirt sales, but it's always we've got no money. And that's the part that I think a lot of us find really frustrating. So I suppose from that sense, nothing has changed for me after the Super League. But I would say, I don't want to quote Ian Ayre here, but kind of be careful what we wish for, because anybody that buys a football club the size of Liverpool isn't going to be Johnny Local, dumb good, or an out-and-out Liverpool diehard fan who's wanted the club their entire life, because football clubs now are valued in the billions, and it's only going to be venture capital funds, investment funds, government-backed funds that are able to buy football clubs these days. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful in what we wish for, but I'm certainly by no means happy with the ownership that we have right now and certain things that they've done. I hope that answers it. I know I told you it was going to be a bit long-winded though. Right, Philip said, this is City, Chelsea, or this is fact. No, I'm butchering this for you, Philip, mate. Sorry. Philip has said, the fact is, City, Chelsea and United will all strengthen this summer. If we want to win trophies next season, we have to as well. I don't disagree with you, Philip, but I suppose what I would say is, and the reason that the phrase massive gamble is in the title of tonight's stream is because it is just that. It's looking like a summer where Liverpool will make signings. I've got no doubt about that. We'll see 2 or 3, maybe 4 new bodies coming to the club, but it won't be the names that we all sat there and hoped for. It won't be Mbappe's or Sancho's or Kane's or Haaland's. It will be the type of signing that Liverpool have made under Jurgen Klopp in the previous 3, 4, 5 years. So you'll be talking players that will come in that will have good reputations, maybe not stellar reputations, maybe not household names to absolutely everybody, but players who have been thoroughly researched and players who will hit the ground running and will add to what we have. And I think, to be fair to Klopp, to the recruitment team, to Michael Edwards, that has worked to an extent. But we are in a bit of a different world now. We know that FFP is basically dead and buried. We have seen Chelsea go and spend a huge amount of money last summer and looking like they're going to do it again this summer. We've also seen that Manchester City's owner Sheikh Mansour has come out and said that they will absolutely replace Sergio Aguero. We know Manchester United want to sign 3 or 4 players, Jadon Sancho being one of them. So I guess where I'm going with this is, at what point are the club over-relying on Jurgen Klopp's brilliance and the coaching attributes that he has, that Pep Linders have, that the rest of the team have, and how much of their own inefficiencies are being masked by the brilliance of the recruitment team and the coaches? And I think that's the type of way I'd look to look at this, because I understand we've got to cut the cloth accordingly, but where's the money? Where is the money? I know if I asked this question to a journalist or to somebody from the club, I'd get the answer: we've got the second highest wage bill in the Premier League, we pay a very high average wage, the contracts are incentivised, blah de blah de blah. Fair enough, but we don't have anybody on over 200 grand a week. Manchester United's goalkeeper, who by the looks of things isn't even guaranteed to be their first choice keeper, is on 350 grand a week. And our best player, Mohamed Salah, well, I say best player, of course that's up for debate. Van Dijk's right up there as well and a few others. But let's say one of our talisman, Mohamed Salah, he's sitting there on a wage of about 200 grand. So like I said to you guys before, the reason I'm maybe a little bit downbeat here, and I don't mean to be, I just want to be realistic, is that I see the same old thing unfolding. I see that it's going to be, well, we want to renew the contracts of the players who've brought us success. We want Van Dijk on a new deal. We want Fabinho on the new deal. And that's great. That should happen. But at the cost of bringing in other top quality players, that's where I think a lot of us kind of say, no, I'm sorry. It's time that we roll the dice. It's time that we invested in 1 or 2 world-class talents. And you'll get people that will come back, and I understand the point, that will say, Craig, that's not how Liverpool have acted as a club over the years. That's not how we've done business. True, but I'm going to go back to the point where we have massively increased our revenues. We have massively increased the marketability of the club. We've won the Premier League, another European Cup. We've got Nike on board. There's so many things that just make me, as a mere mortal, sit here and scratch my head going, where on earth is the money? How can it be the same every single summer? I don't know. That's just my take on it. Right, let's get through as many of your comments as I can, folks. What have we got? I trust Klopp, but I love Mbappe. Look, we'd all love Mbappe, the GOAT, wouldn't we? I mean, there is some talk now that maybe Kylian Mbappe will eventually run down his contract at PSG, which does have 1 year to go. And potentially then the world will be his oyster. He can go and pick where he wants to go. But there's also another train of thought that thinks, well, they're going to move heaven and earth to try and keep him at the club. And if that's bringing in the likes of Zinedine Zidane maybe to placate him, somebody who he looks up to and idolises, that could happen. So I think we can safely rule out Mbappe. We can safely rule out Haaland. And I'm going to go as far as to say, I think we can safely rule out Jadon Sancho, because I mean, I'm fairly confident he'll end up at United from the things that I've been reading, from those I've been speaking to. Nothing's done and dusted, no fee agreed with Dortmund, but a lot of the legwork had been done there for United last year in their failed attempt to sign Jadon Sancho. Craig, also the £750 million investment. It's a fair point, Daniel O'Brien, but let me just reiterate, mate. That £750 or £750 million investment was in dollars, so I think, not that this, I'm just nitpicking here, mate, it's about 550 odd million pound, and you are right, FSG did sell 10% of their holdings, but the plan seems to be that they want to add more sports clubs to their range. So you see with the likes of what's the guy's name again who owns Red Bird Capital, my mind's slipped my Jerry Cardinal, sorry. So Jerry Cardinal owns a good stake, I think 85% in Toulouse, who are the second division French club. They just lost in the playoff to Lens, I think it was, to stay up. And he has Damien Comoli in there running things. He's also bought small shares in Malaga. This is the type of thing I expect to see Liverpool do. Buy or create working relationships with a lot more, I don't want to say feeder clubs, but follow the Red Bull model, maybe follow the City Group model. And that's what I think will be done with that investment, mate. So we've heard that some of it will be used to offset the losses from COVID that Liverpool have incurred. And that's great, but that kind of brings me back around full circle to go, Well, if that did cover those losses that the club have incurred, then still where the fuck is the money? Now, I want to pull up on something else before I go on. I got a message last night, and I always try to take feedback on board, and somebody said to me, why do you have to swear so much in your streams? And I suppose I want to answer it like this. I don't think what I say is hurtful. I swear because it's part of my natural language and part of my culture of the way I grew up. But I would say to people who may be offended by my little bit of swearing, it's the intent of what somebody says that's more important to me. So I swear usually in a jovial, take the piss, fun way, whereas the intent of what I'm saying is usually quite nice. So I would say more concentrate on the tone and the intent of what I'm saying rather than the curse words. I hope that makes sense. Anyway, we move on. What do I think of the DePaul rumours? I think that they are just that, Thomas, unfortunately, mate. Again, he's been linked to AC Milan. I've said this to you guys before. He signed up with Mina Raiola recently as well, which makes it more unlikely to me that we'll see him at Liverpool. I actually watched him last night. I watched 4 of the Cannonball qualifiers. So I watched Argentina playing last night in the 1-1 draw with Chile. And, you know, I'm not judging him just from that, but I don't think he'll be at Liverpool. Actually, I'm almost certain he won't be at Liverpool. Daka is really tough to find out on. I mean, I've been doing my best all day because I'm as intrigued and possibly excited by the Patson Daka situation as everybody. And we know that the Zambia national team coach has said that himself and 2 other players aren't included in the current squad because they're sorting out their futures. Now, I want to, again, in good conscience, tell you that West Ham are interested, Liverpool are interested, and a couple of other clubs are interested. Now, from people close to West Ham that I've spoken to, they don't believe that West Ham are as far along as some media are reporting. In fact, they go as far as to say that they haven't done as much of the legwork yet, although he is somebody that David Moyes would like to bring, I was going to say to Upton Park, but to the London Stadium. And I also had this conversation with Steve last night where people are saying Patson Daka's playing in the Austrian league. You know, my granny could score in the Austrian league. So did Haaland. So did Sadio Mane. So I wouldn't write him off just because of that. I think he's a genuine talent. I hope that our interest is followed up and that it's real, because one thing I think has come through from all of our conversations is that a lot of us would like a different option through the middle. I don't want to write anybody off. I'm not having a dig at Firmino. I'm not slagging off anybody here. But when you go away from Jota, Salah, Firmino, Mane, the drop-off is fairly big. And also, we don't really have an out-and-out number 9. Now, you can say to me Divock Origi could fill that position. And technically, yes, you are correct. But Divock Origi hasn't lived up to that potential. He had his glorious moments, but right now Divock Origi's nowhere near the level that we can safely rely upon him to come in and do a job. So I would say if we can move on Divock Origi and nearly replace him pound for pound, and by that I mean from a financial sense, with Patson Daka, to me that would be a no-brainer and would improve our overall squad. Because look back through the season that we've just had, you could probably pick on one hand the moments that Divock Origi impacted the team in that season. So I think Shaqiri and Origi moving on may free up both wages and a squad place. And I hope that Patson Daka or Daniel Malin is somebody that we're looking at. What have we got? Apparently West Ham want to sign Naldini. I'd say there'll be a few suitors for Nat Phillips. And again, it does look like he's going to move on this summer. It looks like Joe Matip won't be going anywhere. And it looks like Liverpool will start the season with the centre-backs that we have. Maybe Nat Phillips goes if the club get the £8 to £10 million that they seem to want for him. And the big news from today that we found out as well, of course, is that Harvey Elliot will be in and around the Liverpool squad next season. At least that's what's been widely reported. And the 2 journalists that I messaged with today backed that up. So that's great news for him, because I think we all want to see how Harvey Elliot gets on. We all believe in the kid's ability. And he could, and look, again, I know this sounds shitty and it doesn't sound the sexiness that we all want to hear, but he could actually end up saving us a fortune in the long run. And one thing I'll say about Harvey Elliot is, you're not going to find many people who want to succeed at Liverpool more than Harvey Elliot. He's a Liverpool boy through and through, and by that I mean fan. Of course, he wasn't raised in Liverpool, but he's a Liverpool fan through and through. And I'm really excited by the kid. But I still stand over what I said all along, and I stand over what most of you good folks have said out there as well, is we do need signings. We absolutely do. But I just want to be realistic and try and not manage your expectations, because that's not my job to do. But I want to be realistic with you guys and who we could potentially go in for. Who do I think will be the next signing? I would be lying to you if I gave you a name. I'd just be plucking it out of thin air. Do I think we could sign Daka? Yes. But I'm not going to sit here and say I think he'll be the next one through the door. Neuhaus. Again, a good name, mate, and thank you for bringing it up. Who was that? August, I think it was. So Neuhaus has been a bit of a weird one. It was really quiet for ages, and then I told you guys that there'd been stories breaking in Germany suggesting that Neuhaus was lined up to go to Bayern Munich the season after the upcoming one. But he himself has come out and said that there's no truth to that Borussia Mönchengladbach is his home, and there's nothing set in stone for the future. That's out of his own mouth. So at this moment in time, yes, Neuhaus would still be a potential viable option for Liverpool. I get the feeling that he is being lined up for Bayern Munich. That's just my own opinion on it. What? Do you think we'll sign a midfielder? Because apparently we won't sign one. Again, if you're to believe the media, yes, the Gini Wijnaldum direct replacement midfielder doesn't look like it's a priority for Jurgen Klopp. And I've explained to you why I think this is, by the way. Jude Bellingham. That's why. To me. And again, this is just me, Craig, speaking to you, good folks out there in YouTube land. I'm not saying that Liverpool are nailed on to side Jude Bellingham, but what I am saying is, if he moves next summer, and we've already filled that midfield position, because let's not forget, James Milner will be another year older, potentially close to retirement or maybe moving on. Hendo will be another year older. Curtis Jones will have had time to bed in. We'll get a better grasp of what the situation is with Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain. Will Naby Keita still be at the club? So I wonder, are Liverpool putting their eggs in the basket of really trying to make a big move for Jude Bellingham? Now, it could be putting 2-2 together here and coming up with 7, but my gut tells me that that could be the case. But that's just me. That's just my own personal opinion. Dusan Vlahovic, excuse me, I keep pronouncing that guy's name wrong. I don't know anything else about this other than he plays for Fiorentina. I think he's 21 years of age. But I think 50 million euro is the price I've seen bandied about. I don't know if we're in for him or not. Sorry, I'd be lying if I said to you yes or no. Does anybody else get the vibes about Jude Bellingham, by the way? Or do you think that I'm absolutely just batshit crazy here? Because, you know, I've been known to say some stuff like that before that people think is a bit off the wall, but it ticks every box for me. Nearest player I've seen to Steven Gerrard since perhaps Kevin De Bruyne. Gio Reyna is another brilliant shout side. Brilliant shout. Gio Reyna, of course, of Borussia Dortmund as well. Somebody who, another young, great talent, and somebody who I know for a fact that Liverpool have scouted. I think the report, or at least a scouting report of him relating to Liverpool is doing the round somewhere. But Liverpool definitely do hold an interest in Gio Reyna. Klopp definitely does admire the player, but I can't go as far as to say whether we'll bid for him or not. But it's a very good show. Excuse me. Renato Sanchez. I was just watching him actually playing for Portugal against Spain. I think he got about the hour mark before he was substituted, if my memory's right. And he looked really good. He looked really good for Portugal tonight. Some good driving runs from midfield. Obviously following up on a very good season, winning the French league with Lille, excuse me. And again, I'm sure at the Euros will be somebody who'll be in the shop window. And again, somebody who has been linked with the club. The thing about Renato Sanchez is he could be an absolute bargain or he could be an absolute flop. To me, it's a gamble that I don't know if the gamble is worth taking based on his previous experience at big clubs. Albeit he was very young. I'll totally take that into account. Pedro Goncalves would fit into Firmino's role. For those who aren't aware who this gentleman is, he's the Bruno Fernandes replacement at Sporting Lisbon. Or Sporting CF, somebody said I have to call them apparently. And done really good numbers this season. Some good assists, scored goals with both feet, and looks like a genuine talent. He has a 52 million euro release clause, if my memory's right. Sporting want to tie him down to a new deal. But I don't know how this works, but it's been widely reported. even if they do tie him down to a new contract, apparently, for some reason, and I don't know what it is, they won't be able to increase the buyout clause in that contract. So that seems to be the price. And I just wonder, I mean, we don't very often see Liverpool splashing around 50 million quid, do we? The likes of Alisson and the likes of Virgil van Dijk were kind of an anomaly because we had that Philippe Coutinho money. Have I heard about the transfer rumour? No, don't know who that is. Sorry, I'll move on. Rafinha. You know what? I'm 90% certain Rafinha won't be coming to Liverpool this summer. Both from everything that I'm seeing coming out of Yorkshire and the Leeds side of it, from the words he's spoken himself, and for the fact that he's only had 1 year there. He's got 3 years, I think. I think he's contracted until 2024. £18 million move from France the year before. And I think I'd get a feeling that if Marcelo Bielsa signs on for another year, which it looks like he most likely will, or maybe he already has done and I've missed out on that, I think he'll stay there for another year and we'll get the move the year after, wherever it might be. So I would say you can probably stick a pin in the Rafinha stuff. And I don't think that the £32 million price tag that's been put around would be anywhere near the actual valuation that Leeds put on him. In fact, from what I've been told from people from the Yorkshire press, it will be considerably higher than that. Sonic Merchant. I don't know what that means. I don't know if you're saying to me that I look like the guy who chases Sonic, in which case I'll never catch that fucker, he's too fast. Loris Karius. God bless Karius. I mean, my heart really does go out to Karius. I've said this to you guys for ages. I'm a former keeper, albeit nowhere near as good as Karius or any of these professional keepers, of course, but my heart bled for him that night. What happened to him, I think, will scar his entire career. And he'll be moved on if a buyer can be got at around the 3-4 million quid mark. The really worrying thing for me, though, is this whole stuff around Adrian potentially signing on for another year. Normally I'd say that's alright because Alisson, usually keepers don't get injured too much, but unfortunately Alisson has had a couple of knocks over the past season and a half, and I would be very, very, very worried about a title challenge if Adrian had to play a sustained amount of games. I'm well aware that he has put together good runs for us before, but I'm also well aware of what happened against Atletico Madrid in other games as well. So, Adrian's future seems to be in his own hands. If he wants to sign on for another year, it looks like the club will give him that year. Caoimhín Kelleher's plan is apparently to go out on loan to gain experience, both to help with his future at club level, of course, and with the Irish national team. Kelleher's, for those wondering, by the way, Kelleher is above Adrian in the Liverpool pecking order. It goes Alisson, Caoimhín Kelleher, Adrian, and I suppose Gianluigi Pittaluga because he's a young guy coming up, but he's certainly above Adrian in the Liverpool pecking order. He's number 2. But again, because he's a young keeper that hasn't had a whole lot of experience, the odds are he'll be going out on loan. We need a left back substitute for Robertson. The club believe that we don't, mate. The club believe that they've now seen enough in Kostas Tsimikas throughout the season. Yes, he's been unlucky with having COVID, with having some illnesses and some injuries, but the club believe that he's finally getting up to the level, and I think we may see a lot more of him, and I think we might have a more positive spin on Kostas Tsimikas when we see him in pre-season, and hopefully he avoids any further injury. Sell Adrian. Well, we don't need to sell him because his contract is up, so we wouldn't need to sell him. He could just move on. We need to sign Lautaro Martinez. I've got to say, mate, I would be all over that. I don't think it's likely, but again, having watched him for Argentina last night, his movement, his pace, his determination, he is a Jurgen Klopp type forward to me, and I would be doing cartwheels if we were linked with or in for Lautaro Martinez, because not only do we know that Inter Milan need to sell a player or two this summer to sort out their own financial difficulties, and it won't be Lukaku, who's already pledged his future there. So then it's going to be either Hakimi, who I think they're more keen to offload, Lautaro Martinez, or the other option was... Who was the other option? Barea, who I don't think they'll want to move on either. So for me, most likely there it's Hakimi or Lautaro Martinez that leaves Inter Milan. Where they go, your guess is as good as mine. Would I take Pedro Neto? Yes, I would, Kieran, I would. I think Pedro Neto is a very good footballer. I think Rafinha is a very good footballer. And you know, once we get the bodies in, I'm not overly concerned with who they're going to be, as mad as that might sound, because I really do have full belief in our recruitment team. I'm as pissed off as anybody that we seem to be, limited to how much money we have again. And it's not a case of, look, let's just pretend we don't have any money and go out there and drop a shitload of money. It really is a case, again, that we're crying poor mouth, or we're being cried poor mouth to, leak to the media that, oh look, we've got to cut a cloth accordingly, we've got a high wage bill. And I told you what's going to happen. You're going to hear that a lot of the money is going to be tied up, tying down Van Dijk, tying down Salah, tying down Fabinho, tying down Alisson. And here's the beauty of that from a PR perspective from the club. Who's going to argue with that? None of us are going to come out and say we don't want Van Dijk to have a new deal. None of us are going to come out and say we don't want Fabinho, Alisson, Mohamed Salah to have new deals. So it's a very easy way for us to have our expectations managed. And I think we should be a little bit more demanding. I think we're at a point now where we've played the game with the owners. We've understood that we need to sell to buy at times. We understood that the club have to build up their marketing, their club partners and all this type of stuff. But we've won a shitload of stuff, and we've won, well, by stuff I mean money basically, with the Champions League, with the Premier League. And I know that all clubs have to give a little bit back to TV companies, but I'm still baffled. I'm genuinely am just baffled how we can't go out there and give Klopp the tools to really fight, because it doesn't seem like a fair fight to me. I feel like we're over-reliant on Jurgen Klopp and the rest of the coaches' brilliance. And I think that that's been masked by the penny pinching from our owners. And that's my genuine take on it. And I'm not going to go over the top, but I'm not going to start calling for them out and saying John W. Henry this. It's just my take as a fan. I'm annoyed by it. And I know you guys are. Fatawa can't sign until he's 18. So the thing about that gentleman was, and again, I did look into this kid, the guy from Ghana. So the story goes this. If Liverpool sign him, the plan would be for him to go to Sporting Lisbon for an unconfirmed amount of time, basically to help with a work permit and stuff like that, because it's a lot easier to gain an employment visa and stuff like that in Portugal and stuff. And you often see a lot of Brazilian players there, because a lot of them would have dual nationality between Portugal and Brazil, which is why you see a lot of great Brazilian players and stuff showing up in the Portuguese Primeira Liga. So if Liverpool do sign that young guy, it seems like it will be about 1.5 million, and then he would be going to Sporting Lisbon. Let's talk about Harvey Elliot. I'm more than happy to talk about Harvey Elliot. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what this kid's going to bring to the squad. And I hope he plays with no fear, and I hope he gets the chance to show what he can really do. And I've every belief in him. But what I would say is, as fans, I think, just don't get on his back if he doesn't hit the ground running immediately, because he's still a really young guy. He's still learning, he's still developing. And as I said at the start of the stream, he'll want it as much as any of us. He's another one of our representatives out there on the pitch. He's a Liverpool fan through and through. Did you see Nico's red card for Wales? I didn't, mate, no. I didn't watch the Wales game. We're a big club and we must act like it. You're not going to get any argument from me on that, mate. I agree with you 100%. I just don't want to come on and tell you any lies. But I agree. We should be able to go out there and drop 60 or 70 million. At least once off on a player without having to sell somebody. And by somebody I mean a first teamer. Any news on Daka? No, not really. As I was saying, you don't think West Ham are as close as some people are making out, by the way. I've said to you before, Freddie Canute is his representative. I know Canute played with Spurs, but did he have a spell at West Ham at one point? My memory says that he does, but my memory's often wrong. So yeah, we've got a great working relationship with the whole Red Bull brand of clubs, whether it be Salzburg, Leipzig. We've done business with them before. And I think Takumi Minamino, it looks like, will be given pre-season anyway to try and prove himself to the manager. Basuma to Arsenal confirmed, somebody said. Or so Basuma to Arsenal confirmed. We won't be signing Basuma. The price is just getting too high, and while we are admirers of the player, he's not going to be coming to... I've been told flat out that he's not going to be coming to Liverpool. It shocked me a little bit because he seemed to tick a lot of boxes, but if we're not going to be replacing Gini Wijnaldum, which links back around to my thought about Bellingham I spoke about earlier on, you can put a big X through Basuma as well. Who do you think Klopp's successor will be? I don't think that's... There'll always be some type of a succession plan in place, but a lot will depend on what Gerrard does, as an example, at Rangers, or if he takes a step to another club. Will Pep Linders be handed the reins? I honestly don't know, mate. And to be honest, I don't want to think about it, because I want Kloppo to be here and I don't want to think past 2024. I really like Iwar to LFC, said Huey. And look, this would be a summer to go get Houssam Iwar. Just been knocked out of the under-21 Euros of France the other day. Probably off on his holidays right now. It looks like Lyon would be open to selling him this summer. I have to admit, I don't know what his contractual situation is. I don't know how long he has left on it. But look, I think that will be a bargain for whoever goes out there and signs Houssam Iwar. We know Arsenal have been strongly linked to him before, but I've not seen anything to say that Liverpool are in for him, and I've not been told anything to say that we're in for him. But then again, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. How can Arsenal beat us to a signing? See, you're looking at it the wrong way, mate. You think Arsenal beat us to a signing. My point would be that Liverpool looked at the player and thought that there's better value to be had elsewhere. And I would say to you that of the decisions that Klopp has made from that point of view, he's very seldom been proved or made to look foolish when he stepped away. So it's not that Arsenal beat us, it's just that Arsenal are mugs when it comes to the wages and stuff they pay. Look at how long it took them to get certain players off their books. So I would say it's more the fact that Arsenal are desperate and will pay than us not being able to compete with them. Because if it's a sporting project, let's be honest, who the fuck you want to go and play for? Jurgen Klopp or the Lego man that manages Arsenal? Honestly, I don't see how there'd be any comparison there or any doubts in anybody's mind. Thoughts on Adrian's new contract? Like you, mate, I'm fuming about it because he's not good enough. Even as a backup, he's not good enough. But Klopp seems to have belief in him, and Klopp seems to have faith in him. And sometimes that's one of the things that I find fault with in Jurgen Klopp. And look, there aren't many, but I do think that sometimes he's too trusting of people, and that's a really tough thing to use against somebody as a negative, by the way. But sometimes I do think he places faith in people where that faith hasn't been repaid. Chelsea will spend millions this summer after winning the Champions League. Yeah, they will, because they've got an owner who uses Chelsea as, I don't want to say a pet project, because he's been a very good owner for them since he's been there and won a lot of stuff the way he's gone about it. So I don't mean that in a derogatory way, but I mean he's not afraid to open up the purse strings and back his managers. So I can't disagree with what you've said, mate. Daka or Malin? Do you know what, mate? I honestly wouldn't mind either. I see different traits in both of them that I like. Daka more of a straight through the centre, pace, bang, goal. Malin more of somebody who, does know where the goal is, of course, as well. Had a great season with Eindhoven, but he's a bit more bite and fight about him, which is another trait I love to see in a footballer. Who do you want to see us buy this summer personally? I did like the idea of Rafinha. I like the idea of Neto. I like the idea of Houssam Iwar. I like the idea of... I love Kanate. I think that's a great piece of business. But I get a feeling there's going to be a name that we haven't spoken about. Well, at least maybe that I haven't spoken about. I'm sure somebody else somewhere will probably have a name, but I just get a feeling we're going to be in for a surprise with somebody. That's just my gut feeling. Akone, by the way, I mean, Mr. Potato said I like Akone. I've seen very little of him. I've admitted that I've kind of glossed over him when I've been paying attention to Lille in some games, but I did watch him for France under-21s, and he certainly looked like he had a bag full of tricks, plenty of pace, and was very direct in his running, which is a trait I really like in a player. So, yeah, I mean, Akone does look like he could provide good value for somebody. But again, you are taking a bit of a risk there. A very young player, had a great breakthrough season this year with Lille, winning the French league, but I suppose it's a calculated risk, And those calculated risks, more often than not, I think we've gotten right. But then again, for every one of those, you think back to the days of Brendan Rodgers and the Lazar Markovic's of this world that just did not work out. The Alberto Aquilani, who was supposed to be an Alonso replacement, but isn't even fit to be in the same sentence as Xabi Alonso. Klopp said qualification for the Champions League won't make a difference to our transfer plan. Says it all, really. I don't know if he said that to keep the feel-good factor up, which is part of Jurgen Klopp's job. I mean, he's not going to want to spread any negativity around the fan base or the dressing room when we were fighting for a Champions League place at the time. And Liverpool will have, we're not a reactionary club. We don't do transfers on the fly. We've generally looked for 18 months, 2 years and longer at players before. I would actually say probably substantially longer before we pull the trigger on any transfer. So I would say that we probably had a few plans if we did not qualify for the Champions League. So I think that the gaffer may have just been trying to keep the feel-good factor up with that one. Fernandinho on a free for 1 or 2 years? No. You're all right there. And look, not slagging Fernandinho, but no, not for us. We don't need him. What have we got? Andy Carroll would be the man. Well, if you can learn to sit on a bar stool without falling off it, perhaps. But until then, let's just say a kind no. Now, just a little word here, by the way. A lot of you guys might know that I tried to tempt Mr. Rio Ferdinand into a friendly charity bet, because Rio Ferdinand was speaking about how it's clear that Manchester United are in a better place than Liverpool and are better than Liverpool. And I tried to tempt Mr. Ferdinand with a charity bet. I said, Rio, $5,000 of my money against $5,000 of your money, and the loser pays that $5,000 to a charity of the winner's choice. Now look, I'm not arrogant enough to think that Rio Ferdinand knows who the hell I am, but I certainly believe that he will have seen by the amount of people that tagged him, or at least it will have been brought to his attention. So I would ask you guys, please kindly carry on tagging Mr. Ferdinand, because the offer's still on the table, and a charity would benefit after all. And I've got no ill feelings towards Rio Ferdinand. I do think he's talking a little bit of pony with regards to United being in a stronger position than Liverpool, and I think it's fair to say that he said a few things before that I disagreed with as well. But my offer is sincere. $5,000's a lot of money to me and my family. I'm not trying to make out here like I've got $5,000 to throw around, but I'd like to see him put his money where his mouth is. So Rio, if you are watching me, the offer is sincere. I will happily match your $5,000, and the winner, $5,000 goes to the charity of their choice. The offer is there, my friend. If you want to take it up and back up the words that you put out there, I'm more than happy to step up. And anybody who doubts my credentials about paying up bets, I lost another one last season to a United fan, and I was very happy to pay up. Space for Autism received the £500 donation that I promised to pay. That was sorted out. Lost that to a United fan named Andy. Always happy. Charity benefits no matter what. Surely that's a good thing. Right, what else have we got? Do you think Bruno's overrated? Depends who you ask, really, doesn't it? Do I think that he is the messiah that Manchester United fans think he is? No. Do I think he's a good footballer? Absolutely, yes. I think he's a very, very good footballer. But I don't like the comparisons of him to the likes of Eric Cantona from some Manchester United fans. I think it's a bit early for those type of comparisons. But he's a very good footballer. I wish he'd just moaned a little bit less, though. He does seem to be shouting and moaning a lot. But that's the only thing I'd say negative. He's a very good footballer. Thoughts on Jules Koundé? Quality centre-back, would cost the sun, moon and stars to get him out of Sevilla. Still relatively young as well, which is another thing that would add to his price tag. And definitely wouldn't be somebody that Liverpool would be looking at. As a Chelsea fan, I love your channel. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that, Gary. Thank you, mate. Means a lot. Nice to have you in. His punditry is insignificant. He's a part of history. Ferdinand, yes, I'm not a fan of his punditry either. I will say he was one hell of a centre-back, though. I mean, I've actually seen Ferdinand play live, and he was damn good. I'm not going to sit here and say Rio Ferdinand wasn't one of the best centre-backs the Premier League has seen, because he was. He was pretty damn good, to be fair. But I do agree, he does talk a little bit of poo-poo from time to time. But I won't knock the man's credentials. The man's record and trophy speak for itself, and he was a damn fine centre back. Tammy Abrahams. Where did I see Tammy Abrahams linked? I can't remember. So he was linked somewhere. Was it Everton? I can't remember, folks. Sorry, but he was linked somewhere. Sillison. Are we talking about the goalkeeper there? Wouldn't be a bad backup option, to be fair, if that's who you're talking about. Thoughts on Havertz linked to City? That's just simply not going to happen. You know, we've just spoke earlier on about Roman Abramovich and his support for his managers and the way he goes about his transfers. They're after bringing in Kai Havertz. He's after winning the Champions League. He looked better towards the latter part of the season as well. There's no way on God's green earth he's going to sell them to Manchester City. Not a hope. Is it West Ham? Thank you. I know I'd seen Tammy Abraham linked somewhere. I just couldn't remember where it was. Someone else said Crystal Palace. I think it was somewhere. Let's just agree to disagree. It was somewhere. PSG want Genie now. Look, I'm sure Genie will have a whole ton of offers, but it seems to have been confirmed by Juan Laporta that Ronald Koeman will be remaining as the Barcelona manager for the upcoming season, and I would suggest that would certainly be beneficial to Barcelona in luring Genie Wijnaldum there. So I'd be surprised if he doesn't end up at Barcelona, to be honest. Would I take Aouar? Absolutely, mate. 100% I'd have Houssem Aouar. He's I'd love somebody in that role, you know, just drifting in behind. We've seen Bobby Firmino when we played with Jota up front at times drop in and play in the role behind the front three, and Houssem Aouar drifting in from wide areas and playing along there as well, linking up with the forwards. He'd be sensational, and I think this summer he could be gotten for a realistic fee. Oh yeah, Van de Beek, I forgot to talk about that. Anybody who wants to know anything about the Donny van de Beek nonsense rumour, I don't even know who started this, but just ask yourself, when's the last time Liverpool and Manchester United did direct business on a player? So there's no way Donny van de Beek will be coming to Liverpool. There's more chance of me showing up here tomorrow with shoulder length hair than Donny van de Beek signing for Liverpool. Liverpool need goal-scoring midfielders. There's a double-edged sword answer to that, Robert. The way that we play doesn't really lend itself to our midfielders scoring goals, but I do agree with you. I would like to see more third-man runs lay from midfield. I was speaking in one of the games recently where I said we need to get to the byline and pull the ball back more. We did it. We scored from it in the same game. And I would agree, our contribution from midfield, assists and goal scoring hasn't been good enough, but we also have bypassed the midfield at certain times with diagonal balls to the fullbacks in wide areas or straight long balls over the top and tried to win the second ball. So it would take a little bit of a tweak in system to get the best out of those midfielders, and usually Klopp likes to play with a double pivot there in midfield, to sort of holding one that goes forward at times as well. But I agree, we do need more numbers for midfield, mate. I can't have any argument with that. Not that I want to be arguing with any of you, of course. Would I take Tammy at Liverpool? No. No, I wouldn't. I don't think he's that good, I'll be honest with you. I always knew he was never going to really make it at Chelsea. And I don't think... Tammy Abraham's a Premier League footballer, by the way, don't get me wrong, but... You know, back to an Aston Villa or somebody like that, I think is probably the level he should be at. Sign AFTV Robbie. For what? I mean, yeah, I don't even want to talk about it, to be honest with you. I don't... anybody can stick a microphone in somebody's face and get them to say stupid shit and then go and upload it to YouTube. Wouldn't be his biggest fan, to be honest with you. Don't know the lad, but wouldn't be his biggest fan. Would I take Saul Niguez? I would, but he's not going to come. More chance of United maybe going in for him. Actually received a standing ovation tonight when he came on for Spain because the game was at the Wanda Metropolitano, which is of course Atletico Madrid's home ground. But he won't be coming to Liverpool, but he's a very tidy footballer. Would you take Joe Willock? No. But the reason I'm saying this, by the way, is not because I have anything against Joe Willock. He had an amazing end of the season, but Lego Man let it be known that Joe Willock is 100% in his plans at Arsenal, and as much as Newcastle would love to keep him because he looked like he settled in really well there, did great for them at the end of the season. What was it, 6 in a row or something like that for Joe Willock, which is great return towards the end of the season for Newcastle. But no, no, it looks like he's wanted at Arsenal. That guy Rafinha won't be coming, Rob. I don't mean to be the bearer of bad news, mate, but the Rafinha stuff is all to drive clicks. Leeds don't want to let him go. He's already said himself that he doesn't want to go anywhere. So yeah, I think it's not true. Do I rate Thomas Tuchel? A lot more than I did 6 months ago, yes. Look, he put on a tactical masterclass at times to outwit Pep, who can be his own worst enemy on the big occasion. I mean, he does like to overthink things at times, but he beat Pep 3 times in a row towards the end of the season. He won, a huge trophy there in the Champions League with Chelsea, so you've got to rate a Champions League winning manager. Would I take Raheem Sterling back at Liverpool? Oh, there's a loaded question. It would depend on a couple of things. We're not going to pay him the type of money he's on at Manchester City, and he is only 26 or 27 though, Raheem, so he is kind of... I know some people think his best years are behind him. I don't necessarily subscribe to that belief. I think he's a confidence player, and I still think Raheem Sterling has a lot to offer the game. But would I take him at Liverpool? It would have to be for the right money. And of all the players who've left us, I can understand at the time. I don't like the way he went about it, but if you think about where we were as a club versus the club that came and bought him and what he then won there, it's easier to kind of be a little bit more forgiving. But that interview at the BBC wasn't great, so I suppose it would have to be a very good deal for the club, but I can't see it happening. Andre Silva, people keep bringing up to me, but I've not seen anything about that guy from Frankfurt being linked to Liverpool anywhere. All good, thank you, Paul. All good. Would I take Edouard as an Origi replacement, or maybe Tony? Ivan Toney won't go anywhere now that Brentford have got promoted. He'll want to go up there and have a go in the Premier League with the club he went up with. Edouard, I'd read before that he's not interested in coming to Liverpool. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I read this. I'm not saying he said it. But there was an article saying that he doesn't believe that he'd be able to push his way into the Liverpool first 11 on a regular basis. And if that's the case, and I don't know if it is or not, it's not the type of attitude I'd want an incoming player to have. I'd want somebody like Diogo Jota who looks at our team and goes, good players, but I can make it there. And he has. And that's the type of attitude I'd like from anybody who comes in. Luis Suarez, again, not going to come. He's going to stay at Atletico Madrid, Rex. He feels love there. He's come out and said that himself. Scored the goal that technically won them La Liga, and he'll stay there for the next season. What else have we got? Van de Beek, I've already talked about that nonsense of a story. I don't know the guy from Bayer Leverkusen, Ryan, so I won't lie to you and give you an opinion, pal. I genuinely haven't got a Scooby-Doo who he is. Would I take Declan Rice? Do we need Declan Rice? Is more what I would say there. Like, we've got Fabinho, we've got Thiago, we've got Hendo, and Declan Rice is a very fine footballer. I just think it's not a position where we need to go out and get a Declan Rice type player right now. But he's definitely a very fine footballer. Get Gary Cahill. For what? Do we need a new water boy or something? Like, we've got Kanade in, excuse me, I said a Kone there because I was already thinking of a wide forward, but we got Kanade in. Any Ajax players you'd take? I keep an eye on Per Schurz for the future. I know he did sign a new contract. Other than that, Neres is alright, but I don't know if he'd make it. Tagliafico for me, not really good enough. Gravenberch, yes, there you go for him. That's the one. Gravenberch should be the one I keep an eye on as well. Good show. Another really talented young midfielder. Max Aarons, I had seen Max Aarons' name strongly linked elsewhere actually. Oh, I can't believe I can't remember this right now, but I've seen Max Aaron's linked to another Premier League club quite strongly this week, and apologies, I can't remember who it is. What about Bellingham? Noah, and this is just me talking, I'm of the belief that we'll make a move for Jude Bellingham next year. But I'm not basing that off any inside knowledge. I'm not pretending that anybody's told me this. I just get a feeling that we may be seeing a move for Jude Bellingham next summer from Liverpool. And I'm under no illusions about how much he'd cost, because, you know, he's going to be worth it. But if you're bringing in Jude Bellingham, what would he be then? 18, 19, a year down the line? Another season under his wing at Borussia Dortmund, another Champions League campaign, the Euros under his belt with England as well, where, by the way, I think he'll shine. I don't think he'll look out of place whatsoever. I'd love it. I'd love it. I hope it happens. You know, is there anything to be said for another mass? That's what I'm going to say to you. Right, look, ladies and gents, I'm going to head off into the night, but don't let me down on the Rio thing. Get onto Instagram, keep tagging them. Go onto the Anfield Agenda Twitter account, keep tagging them. We put up a Where's Wally picture earlier on, quote tweeting the video about Rio, trying to get his attention, basically saying no sign of Rio anywhere. And also don't forget to give our TikTok a follow as well. We're closing in towards 30,000 TikTok followers. Just search Anfield Agenda over there. If you've ever got anything that you guys want me to bring up, or any topics or anything, we've got 2 email addresses you can contact us on. If it's ever a business related inquiry, you can get us at partnerships@anfieldagenda.com. If it's just a contact information, you want to throw a topic out there, contact at anfieldagenda.com. The good news is we got contacted by one of the competition, well, 2 of them actually. The main prize winner, Joe, contacted us. He's already received his Amazon voucher. I've ordered him the new Liverpool home shirt, and we're posting off the other stuff to him very soon as well. Tom Hume, who was one of the winners of our £50 Amazon vouchers, has received his voucher. The only one we're still waiting to touch base on is Cam Vlogs. So Cam usually drops in every now and again into the chat. He's the other winner. But don't forget, we will have lots more stuff coming up as well. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit the subscribe button. Don't forget to check out Anfield Agenda Extra as well. Have yourselves an absolutely cracking weekend. Lots